I don't know what's up with that start button. I mean, I gotta press it real loud. Damn it. Look at this. Hold on, I gotta put this thing down there. Yeah. Oh shit. Oh no. Oh no. What happened here? What happened? What happened? What happened? What happened? Alright. Anyway. Yeah. Alright, listen. I wanted to pose a theory or a series of questioning. So it is basically about Chris Hedges and his book, War is a Force That Gives Us Meaning. He did a radio interview here in New York that I recorded maybe 6 or 7, no, I don't think it was that long. So maybe 4 years ago, he did a radio interview, and he was talking to Hugh Hamilton on WBAI, a progressive radio station here in New York, and he was saying that in his book that pornography, a lot of the women that were featured in pornography, they had shown to him what he believed to be the symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder. And he had said, you know, that this, he clearly recognizes this from being possibly indicative of childhood sexual abuse or childhood of child abuse, generally speaking. And I don't think so. I think he was, he may, I can't speak for all of those women. Some of those women may have been, but I am thinking more along the lines that if those women have post-traumatic stress disorder, it is because they exist in this type of economic environment where, to quote Wu-Tang, cash rules everything around me, and what they're trying to do is make as much money as they can for as long as they can. And I think that right there is a lot of the what generates a lot of stress in some of these women. You know, and what he says, he saw the women popping pills. I mean, you get the book for yourself, and you can see there's a chapter at the end about pornography. And, you know, it's War is a Force That Gives Us Meaning. I think the book came out 2008, 2009 or so. You know, but I think he was wrong with his synopsis on the issue that the women suffer from PTSD as a result of sexual trauma. And I can't speak for all of them. Some of them may have. But what I think is that a lot of these women, especially the non-white women, there could be the white women also, but let's just say, for instance, non-white women, they exist in the system that when they become adults, they are almost unemployable because of some type of exclusion. You know, it's a phenotypical exclusion. They're being excluded from the workforce because they don't look the part. I mean, there's just as many white women that are also being, you know, they have all limited job opportunities also. So that's what I think it's causing a lot of that stress that he was noting. But being that he's a white man, he may not see those things as I would see them, or some of you may see them, because when you see the women in your family or the women that you know, I'm not what I'm saying is there's no women in my family that do porn, but I do know women that do it, you know, or who have decided to do it because the money was good. I mean, you can't tell someone that they get $800 for a scene for straight sex, that they can do $800 for a scene, or they can go out here and work at, let's say, 7-Eleven or Stewart's or Atlantic Mini Mart, you know, and they won't make $800 a month. Because, you know, you got to understand that those type of jobs, you know, there's economic servitude, economic slavery is what it's all about. But they use codified language to make it sound like they're offering you something useful, right? What they're telling you is, you know, we have flexible scheduling, which means you'll never get the same hours, so the job itself doesn't pay a lot, and you'll never get consistent hours. First of all, you won't get full-time. You won't get full-time unless you agree to work the danger shift. The danger shift would be anything after 10 o'clock, so you'd work the overnight. You know, full-time, yeah, because you're working from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. That's the time the store is most likely to get robbed. And they're going to leave you in that store all by yourself. You know? Give you a little beeper around your neck, so if you go within greater than 30 feet from the entrance or from the store, then the alarm goes off. That doesn't help anyone, but that doesn't help you if somebody bursts in the store at 1 o'clock in the morning and decides to kill you. And robbed the till, and he robbed the till and only got out of it was $54. Is your life only worth $54? But I don't want to get too far away from that. But there's a lot of economic slavery in these jobs because the flexible schedule means for women who have children, for women with children, you know, you have to get the same schedule every day because the kids get out of school. They get out of school at 2:30, 2:45, 3 o'clock, and they have to be in school 7:30, 8 o'clock. So what good does it do you to give you a schedule that you can't work, you know? But you need the job. And so this is what happens here. Like, for instance, here in New York, a few years ago, a woman lost her entire family because she had to report for the morning shift at McDonald's. But she had no one to watch her kids. But you either show up or I'm going to have to terminate you. I need this job. You know, as I said, the job didn't pay her enough to live. She was getting workfare, which is welfare, but they want you to work for your welfare benefits. All right, so, you know, she's trying to do what she has to do. And she's going to do those things. But what happens is, you know, the kids were left home by themselves, and they were playing with matches, and you can predict the rest. The whole house burnt down, and she lost all of those kids. All of that for a bum-ass McDonald's job that she felt compelled to keep because she needed a job to keep her workfare benefits, and she also needed a job to prove that, you know, she was industrious. But I don't want anyone to think that it was all her fault. This is the way the system is designed. All right? Michael Moore, he made reference to the same thing in his movie Bowling for Columbine. You know that scene where he confronted Dick Clark in his limousine and asked Dick Clark, how is it that you don't pay your people enough money to live? Because when that woman in Detroit, she worked at a Dick Clark restaurant, and she had to go to work for her workfare benefits also, but she lived in the city of Detroit or the city of Flint, right? But the job was on the outside in the suburbs, and so she had to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to catch 2 buses to get to this job. It's the same thing here. It's the same thing here with respect to the woman who had to go to her job at McDonald's to open up at 6 o'clock in the morning, even though there was no one to care for her kids. So the kids stay in the house. She tells them, you can tell them as much as you want to. Don't do nothing, just stay here and don't open the door for nobody. But, you know, kids are going to be mischievous because that's what they are. That's why they need adult supervision. But what happens is, in an economic system that we have, everyone is left to fend for themselves. You know? It's that Anne Ryan theory. Alright, I don't want to use a lot of profanity in this video, but I'm down. I just want to say Anne Ryan, that bitch is big crock of shit. That bitch is big ass phony. That bitch old fake ass bitch need to shut the fuck up. Somebody needs to dig up, set her on fire, and dig and put it back in the grave. Corny ass bitch, crazy ass economic theory. But let me tell you something. The fact that Anne Ryan's theories are accepted so widely means people actually feel like that. And most people are greedy. There's no other word for it. They're greedy. I got mine. I think you can't get yours. I got mine. Fuck you. That's the current American economic policy right there. Got mine. Fuck you. I'm a libertarian. So it all makes sense. Libertarian. Right? But anyway, back to the PTSD and Chris Hedges. My example on the woman in the Michael Moore movie, Bowling for Columbine, and the woman here in New York who lost her entire family because she had to go to work. Those are the type of things that are creating the stress. I don't believe that sexual abuse or sexual trauma or emotional abuse may be doing it as much. Like I said, I can't speak for every performer, every actress, every entertainer in the business. I can only speak for what my interpretation is of the people that I know who decided to get in that business, or even if they're not even in that business. The people who are just trying to survive, which is a phrase I don't like because I don't see how you're in the wealthiest country in the world and you're just trying to survive. That was a phrase I heard in Florida, and I did not like that. I had to get out of there, you know, which is why I'm glad everybody's now boycotting Florida. You just got to hold fast to your convictions. You know, I'm trying to survive. I'm in survival mode. But, all right, so back to PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. in the performers of pornography, the female performers. I don't believe it's so. I believe, when you have the desire, and especially when you live in a world of fantasy, a world of make-believe, and then someone is telling you, well, the fantasies and the goals, they only apply to a specific percentage of the population. You can sell everyone Cinderella, but, Cinderella's not for you. You are one of the ugly stepsisters. You can sell everybody Goldilocks and Sleeping Beauty, but that's not for you. And when you think about it, this is the major reason a lot of people use drugs. They use narcotics and controlled substances because, it's like Mizuko, I don't want to say her name if I can't pronounce it correctly, but the woman who wrote When the Rainbow Is Not Enough, for all the colored girls who considered suicide when the rainbow isn't enough. The title alone speaks volumes, right? What happens is, when I'm selling you an image, or I'm selling you a fantasy, or I'm selling you an illusion, but there are intricacies in the illusion that don't apply to you, you develop a psychosis, a mental fit, because how come I can't do those things too? Well, you can't do those things because you're not pretty like me. You don't have long, flowing, blonde hair and blue eyes, and you're not thin-waisted and thin-lipped and all of these things that tell you that I am the icon of beauty. All right? And then when you come out here and you really want to make it, you want to provide for yourself, and you can't do it because the job that you get paid, and it doesn't even matter. You can get a premium of 30% over minimum wage, which puts you at $10 an hour. You can get a premium of 100% over minimum wage, which is $14 an hour. Right? But the job is not offering you 40 hours. Or if they offer you 40 hours, you still can't afford housing where you live. See, those are the things that eat these women up. So now what they do is they sell all of their convictions, all of their principles to make $1. And that's where the PTSD comes in. That's where the manifestation of PTSD comes in my opinion, with respect to Chris Hedges and his book, War is the Force That Gives Us Meaning. Right? I got to make some money. I got to make some money right now. It affects men also, but I can't say in porn. I just say, generally speaking, it affects ethnic men, or I just say non-white men in the United States just as well. All right? You can see some of these Puerto Rican men, they've got alcohol abuse problems because they can't find a way to fit into the system. All right? They've got the same goals that everybody else wants to do. They want to get a woman. They want to impregnate this woman, have children with this woman, and do the same things that everybody else wants to do. But they're having such a difficulty doing it. Even Charles Ramsey, the guy who discovered those 3 women in that house in Cleveland. This is a dude, when you listen to this guy talk, he's pretty articulate, but no one wants to ask themselves, why is this guy, as articulate and as intelligent as he is, why is he a dishwasher? All right? And what kind of life was he living as a dishwasher? He was living a life as a dishwasher where McDonald's was a luxury. Because you saw how many times he mentioned it. We was at McDonald's. I was eating my Big Mac. My pickle just dropped out in the bottom and the rest of the mayonnaise ran in my arm. But I love that McDonald's. I love that McDonald's. I wish them motherfuckers bring back that BLT. Because I remember I had myself a McBLT. That's right. Shamrock Shake. I'm not going to lie to you. Shamrock Shake, McBLT. Shit. So, I'm just saying, a lot of the stress that the women are dealing with is because they're trying to maximize their earning potential no matter what. No matter what. And this is the state that you're in because, see, prostitution becomes the easiest way for women to, especially in this age, in the internet age, you could put that pussy out there and these people could pay for that pussy. Because a lot of dudes ain't getting no pussy. All right? A lot of dudes ain't getting no pussy because another side effect of this economic system is a lot of men, I would say some of a perverted side effect of feminism is a lot of dudes they don't know how to talk to women anymore. So when Tariq Nasheed is up here and he's giving you the Mac lessons, he's trying to get you up on game, a lot of dudes don't know what to do with that. A lot of men don't know what to do with that. What they want you to do is they want you to do everything for them. All right, Kyrie, you got to tell me what to say. You know, they want like a Cyrano de Bergerac. You know, remember Steve Martin in that movie Cyrano, when he's hiding behind the bushes, you know, and he's telling the guy what to say. You know, and he's like telling all of this smooth stuff to say, and he's saying it, and you know, it is that. That's what they want you to do. I mean, Tariq Nasheed was telling them, look, man, if you want to get these women, you have to be fly. Your clothes have to be cool. Your language has to be cool. You know, your wardrobe has to be cool. Your car has to be cool. Now, there are different ways and degrees of managing this coolness, all right? I mean, you know, but what the young dudes, they have no ability to harness that coolness, right? Because, I mean, all of their aspects, I mean, a lot of these guys have been raised by women, and all of their aspects and their respects and their perspectives have been created by women. So, and they've been, for the most part, sometimes these women have been too assertive for their own good because they wind up ruining their son, right? And then all these things wind up blowing up on everybody because now the men they don't see eye to eye with the women, and the women are impatient with the men because they're not living up to some expectation, and then the whole system becomes like Japan. If you go to Japan right now, they have a complex called they call it the grass eater syndrome, or herbivore complex, where the men are too intimidated to talk to the women, so what they do is spend most of their time doing things that are metrosexually. You know, they are buying. You know, they do it. Well, metrosexual stuff. They go into the salon, getting their nails manicured and pedicured, and getting their hair done, and then they go to you know, buy clothes, designer clothes and handbags and tech gadgets and toys like stuff like that. And they're not even expressing an interest in the women. And then the women are saying, you know, the women, they'll say that bullshit that they're not aggressive enough and not assertive enough. But you know, remember, women have a limited range of fertility. All right, at the most, the women 40 years. That's all. So you know, from 14, let's say from 14 to 45. That's her band. That's her band of fertility. After that, so you know, honestly speaking, some of these women, they cannot be waiting. You cannot be waiting until you're 32, 36 years old. You know, you're 36 before you gotta figure out. You gotta get a man if you want to procreate. Because even at that point, 36, you start to enter the high risk phase of gestation, of pregnancy. You know, another thing to consider is. Another thing to consider is, you know, what are you doing? I mean, you know, the national demographers have to make note of this, because if you can't get the men and the women to jump in there and procreate, you're going to have a low birth rate, and low birth rate is significant of a dying society. All right? You get to a position where the men don't want to meet the women, and the women, you know, they're not impressed with the men. I don't really know what you're doing here. Actually, I do, but it's because if you think about it, by having those type of hardships in these type of societies, what it allows you to do, what tells the person to do, is that they're going to become devoted to the corporation, right? Family means nothing anymore. Only the corporation matters. Think about it. What I just mentioned, right? Those things, now you couple those things with the increased cost of housing. That means the people, if they can't afford to live anywhere, they have to postpone family because they can't afford a house. I was talking to these people that live upstate, and, you know, I'm telling them, look, and I said that before in another video, I said, man, there is no way if you live in Scotia, Glenville, or Lansingburg, or North Greenbush, or Bethlehem, or County Colony, Builderland, or whatever, wherever you live, if the county, the city, and if they assess your property at, let's say, $300,000, and then you have to pay your property taxes on an assessment of $300,000. Do not believe that your house is $300,000. If the bank appraises your house at $300,000, do not believe your house is worth $300,000. If the young people that live in your community if the median salary for the job that they get is $26,000, $28,000, $30,000, your house is not worth $300,000. How so? If you had to liquidate your house in the open market, you have to accept mark-to-market value, which would mean if the young person, the man, if he made $30,000, and the woman, if she made let's say 25, well, no, let's say 25,000, that's combined as 55,000, and they were married for some period of time where you can actually combine their income. When I was doing that mortgage banking thing briefly upstate, I met a guy, can't remember his name, was Al something, but he used to drive this 50-something Oldsmobile 88, you know, and he said, well, basically, man, what you want to do is you want your home price to be 300% of what you earn. So 3 times what you earn, gross. So if this family is grossing 55, that means the house that they're looking for should be in the 150, 165, 170 range. There's no way that family is going to buy no house for those 300,000. You see, your house is illiquid in this market. You can't sell it to anyone. And we're not talking about any dramatically large houses. We're talking about your base house, 1,800 square feet, you know, 1-car garage, 2-car garage, you know, about a 600 square foot backyard, maybe a 200 square foot front yard, something like that. But you see how they con you though? I'm telling these young people, your house is not worth what is being assessed at. But number one, upstate New York cannot retain young people. So your house is worth nothing if you can't get young people to stay here, because if you bought this house in 1974, you got a 30-year note and you paid the house off in 2004, so it's been about 10 years that you've been debt-free on this house, or mortgage-free. You know, you still got to pay for the maintenance. You know, you got to get a new roof. You had to get a new septic tank over the years. You know, you had to get some guy to come in and replace the pipe that goes up into the shower on the second floor bathroom. You know. But my thing is, you can't sell the house. If the young people cannot afford to buy the house, there's no way you can sell this house. Now, you're getting old in years, and what you want to do is you want to liquidate, and you and your wife want to buy an RV. You want to sell out. You want to buy an RV, and then you want to move to, you want to do that cross-country touring thing like Charles Perrault used to do. You know, you want to buy an RV and a little a Ford C-Max, and then you're going to drive this RV coast to coast from Acadia National Park in Maine to the Grand Canyon, and then when you get back, you're gonna buy a trailer home in, you know, I don't know, you're gonna buy a trailer home in a park somewhere, and you're gonna live out the rest of your years there. And in order for you to finance this, you need to sell this house, and you need to get whatever the county was assessing you at $400,000. But you've had this house on the market for 2 years, and no one can afford to pay that, so you drop it, you know, 1%, 2%, 10%. So now 400, now you're at 360. You're still not getting any bites. Now you can't afford to do the things that you wanted to do. You know, your wife is getting old and sick, and then, you know, and even if she had gotten sick, you still couldn't liquidate the house in order to you still couldn't cash out in order to pay for her medical care if you had to put her in the home, or if you had to put yourself in the home, or if your kids had to put you in the home. You see? The housing market is a fraud. Your house is worth exactly what it was 20 years ago. You know, your house is worth what it was in 1990. Which was, if I was looking at a house that was in Niskayuna, I don't know what street that was. Maybe Glenwood or Kenwood. I think it's Kenwood Avenue in Niskayuna, which is on the Albany-Smith county line. And they wanted $110,000 for that house. And that was back in 1996. If you go there now and they want you to believe that this house is worth $380,000, no fucking way. This house is worth the same damn 110, if not less. How can your house be more if the economy has gotten worse? All right? Now, my point is, this is the traumatic stress disorder that is affecting people. All right? It could be childhood sexual abuse or child abuse. But most likely, in my opinion, it is the stringent or these stiff economic factors that are cannibalizing people and ruining their train of thought. Those women in those porn movies, they're trying to make as much money as they can because they don't want to grow up like their family did. You know, clearly, if you were from an upper middle class family, you wouldn't need to do porn because you'd have other options to do. Even if they paid less, there'd be more alternative options. But if you didn't, if you didn't, and you're an attractive woman, and you grew up in the ghetto, or you grew up in some underprivileged area, some poor area, and some guy's telling you, girl, you made that ass work for you, girl, and you figured $800 for this scene and $200 for a blow, and then a gang, we're gonna get you about $3,000 after a gang bang, and then all of these things, and this, that, and the other thing, and you saying to yourself, so you could put yourself in a position where you can make $100,000 in a year. You do enough features, and then you have the dancing circuit where you wind up dancing for dollars. Remember, all you have to do is remember to declare taxes on that income, and you'd be all right. And so you wind up talking to women who own their own house. They're whores, but they own their own house. They own their own car. They suck and fuck, but they own their own house, they own their own car. Now, a lot of them may not have wanted to do this, and this may be the thing that makes them want to use drugs so they don't have to think about it. Because women like to do that thing. They like to not think about something and pretend just because they're not thinking about it that such a thing does not exist. It's a woman thing, I'm not going to think about that red light. If I don't think about that light being red, then that red light doesn't exist. That light still exists. You just don't even want to acknowledge that the light is there. So anyway, this is what I'm saying. That this is what's happening, all right? There's a lot of stress from just trying to survive, all right? If they're lucky, they can do enough scenes to make enough money. Where even though the movies, most of those movies are made in Los Angeles. I mean, I know there's international movies also, but even though they can take that money, they'll go back and they'll buy a house in Atlanta. They'll buy a house in Houston, Texas. They'll do that thing for a couple of years, and then pretty much this is what the women are doing. Put together their money and buy a hair salon. So now they went legit in quotations because what they were doing was legal. It just wasn't moral or ethical according to other people's definitions. So some of them, they wind up being prostitutes, and they convert prostitution that way, becoming call girls and escorts. That doesn't work very long because in order for you to get top dollar, you have to remain young all the time, and with that kind of life, unless you're in a gym 6 hours a day, it's very difficult for you to retain that youthful vibrance that appears on the screen. You take a woman like Darlene, she does movies in Brazil. You guys know Darlene. Darlene used to be doing MILF movies and Brazilian big butt movies, and now she wound up doing grandma movies. Because all that money that they're paying her, she's eating good and living good, but she's getting fat. And the last thing people want to do is pay a premium to get with a fat woman, like I said in my Puerto Rican video. So, with respect to Chris Hedges, I think his synopsis, his conclusion is wrong, or not wrong. I just don't think it was entirely fleshed out. I think what I think is what's going on, and a lot of these women, especially the non-white ones, they need to make money so bad because they want status. They want to leave their economic class. So even if they're just doing it to get money to go to school, but a lot of times when women say that, that's just a ruse because they want you to think that they're doing something altruistically positive versus, just something morally repugnant in the eyes of the person making the statement or making that judgment. Well, I'm only dancing right now. I'm only dancing in the strip club right now. I'm in college. I'm going to school. I'm getting my degree. I'm going to open up my own ice cream parlor. They'll tell you all that type of shit. That's all that I'm thinning. And no offense, but a lot of Latino women like to do that, man. I'm thinning. I'm about to go to school and study mortuary sciences. I'm about to go to school and study kickboxing and technology. It may happen, it may not, but like I said, everybody's looking for altruistic positivity, so they'll tell you what they think you want to hear. So allow me to clear my throat. Let me clear my throat. Have mercy, babe. I hope you don't mind. anyway, but so, I'm out of here. I got 5 seconds left, and I'm gonna post up later. I'll see you guys.